Hey guys, this time I got a Tenyi deck. So I think Tenyi is a pretty good rogue option. Like, the deck is very budget and it can perform pretty well, and it's also very consistent. So let's get into it. So first of all, I run 3 light Tenyi Spirit Ashuna. This one is the best one, I would say. All the Tenyi spirits have the effect that you can special summon them if you control no effect monsters. And then they also have an effect that they can activate either in their hand or in the graveyard, and you banish them to get that effect. So for light, you banish it and you get to special summon a Tenyi from your deck, a Tenyi spirit. Up next, 3 Vashuda, the dark one. So this one, its effect is that you can banish it and then you can target one card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. This one's pretty cool because it allows certain tech options. I don't run it here, but for the side deck especially, if you for example, if you wanted to side in lava golems, you could tribute your opponent's monsters and then also use Vashuda's effect to be able to bounce it back. That way you conserve it and you get rid of the monster off of their field. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Other than that, he can provide outs to floodgates and stuff, so he's pretty cool. Then we have 3 of the Earth one, Adahara. He's the one that recycles your resources. You can banish him and then target one of your Tenyi spirits that are banished and then add it back to your hand. And we have 3 of the water, Sathana. So this one is when your opponent destroys one of your non-effect monsters by battle or by card effect, you can banish it. You can banish this card, destroy one card on the field, or destroy one monster your opponent controls, and then also special summon back the monster that got destroyed initially. And up next we have the green one, the wind. So this one's battle damage. You can buff up your monster by 1500 attack until the end of the turn. We have fire one, the Mapura. This one is if they try and target one of your non-effect monsters, you can activate it in hand or graveyard, and then you just negate it. You just negate cards that would try and target your non-effect monsters. And that's it for all the Tenyi spirits. Up next we have our main non-Tenyi monster. This is Mermer. Very important, you can go into big combos with Mermer because he lets you special summon up to 3 tokens per turn. And then they're all worm, and then he's also a worm monster. And then him being a tuner monster comes up too at the end of the video. I'll show one combo with him afterwards. And that's it for all the main monsters we play. The rest of it is hand traps. So I play 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Effect Veiler, and 2 Ghost Ogre. So the reason for so much hand traps, other than, if you don't want to lose going second, you should play a good amount of hand traps. But for this deck in particular, we use a lot of cards that let us draw during your opponent's turn. So the likelihood of you drawing a hand trap during your opponent's turn is pretty good. You have a good chance of doing that, and yeah, it adds a lot of good defense to the deck. Also, Ash Blossom and Ghost Ogre have a pretty good interaction with the Tenyi spirits, where they're level 3 tuners. So if you special summon one of the level 4 ones, you can actually have a play. I'll explain that once we get to the extra deck. That's it for the hand traps. Now to go into the spells, we have the Tenyi Feel spell, Flawless Perfection of the Tenyi. So this one makes it so all your non-effect monsters on the field are unaffected by monster effects. And then also, once per turn, if your opponent special summons a monster while you control a non-effect monster, you can draw 2 cards. So this is one of the cards I was talking about that lets us draw into our hand traps. And this card is searchable, so I figured if you play multiples, when I tried playtesting it, it would be kind of dead, drawing multiples. Instead, there's many ways that you can search it out, so I feel that out of one, it's nice. Then we draw our main engine that adds a huge level of consistency to be able to search stuff. Is 3 Heavenly Dragon Circle and 3 Foolish Burial Goods. So I'll explain Dragon Circle first as to why we play triple Foolish Burial Goods. So the Dragon Circle is you contribute a worm monster and then you can add a worm monster from your deck to your hand. But if it's if you tributed a non-effect monster, then you can also special summon the monster at the same time. Then the other effect it has is if it's in your graveyard, you can banish it and you can add 1 Tenyi card. So any card, it can be monster, spell, or trap, from your deck to your hand. The thing is, you can only use 1 effect per turn. So it's either like the first one or the second one. And it's a hard once per turn. But still, it makes it really good because it can get you exactly what you need. Like if you don't have the light one, you can special summon one of the other ones, make the link 1, then use this card so that you can get the light one, because that's usually the most important one. Or you can just keep this card in hand and discard it with a shaman, so that you can use the effect in graveyard to get the search. Or lastly, you can use shaman, and if they try to either Veiler or impermanence your shaman, you can chain this card, the Dragon Circle, and tribute the shaman, so that way the effect goes through. So yeah, it has many different uses. And then with the Foolish Burial Goods, you can send it to graveyard just to use its second effect, so you can get that search effect more consistently. So if you have a handful of Tenyi monsters, you can just search out the field spell, or if you already have the field spell and Tenyi monsters, you can search out the counter trap. Or yeah, it's just many different ways you can use it. I tried playing around with the Desires build, but I didn't like how you're kind of forced into running multiple copies of Mermare. I'd rather not have to worry about banishing the Mermare, because if you do banish that card, it can be kind of troublesome. So yeah, so anyways, the other card, so 3 Vessel for the Dragon Cycle. So this card is like a Foolish Burial, except if you control a non-effect monster when you activate it, then you can add a Tenyi monster from your deck to your hand. So it's like 2 effects in 1. So the main thing you're going to do is you want to drop your Mermare and then search out a Tenyi monster when you get this. And on top of that, we also play a Foolish Burial. It's like 4 copies of Foolish Burial in the deck. And that's it for the spells. Now for the traps. We run 3 Waterfall of Dragon Souls. So this card has 2 effects, and it's not once per turn. So first effect is you can add just 1 worm monster from your deck to your hand, which is practically everything that we have. Pretty much every monster except for the hand traps. Then its second effect is you can send any number of worm monsters from your hand and or face up on the field to the graveyard. Draw cards equal to the number that you sent, +1. The reason it's so good is because all the Tenyi monsters, the Tenyi spirits, they have their effects that it can activate in graveyard. So everything you're throwing away, you're still going to get benefit from it. It's still a resource that you can use in graveyard. And then you're replacing them, you're drawing more cards. Most likely with the amount of hand traps that are running, you can draw a hand trap, and that's going to be more disruptions to your opponent's turn. And then also, if you draw multiples, it's really cool because you can use 1 to add a Tenyi monster. For example, you add like the water one or something. If you want to have an extra disruption during your opponent's turn, you add like the water one, and then you use the other one to use the second effect, and you just ditch. You ditch from your hand usually. You can't do field, but usually I just end up just doing hand, and you end up drawing, and then that's a good amount of advantage that you get. Even if you draw into like, let's say the red one or the green one, it can also be like a pseudo hand trap, I guess, too, if you think about it like that. So yeah, 3 of the waterfalls. And then lastly, our last card is our counter trap, Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi. So this one is, its effect is when a spell or trap or monster effect is activated while you control a face-up non-effect monster, you can negate the activation. And then the other effect is if this set card is destroyed by your opponent, then you can special summon one non-effect monster from your extra deck. So yeah, just one searchable counter trap negation that the deck has. And that's it for the deck, for the main deck at least. Let's go into the extra deck to finish it off. 3 Monk of the Tenyi. Just a non-effect monster, just very easy. All the Tenyi spirits can go into a monk. Then we have 2 Shaman. So Shaman's effect is that you can discard 1 card to target 1 worm monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Its other effect is if a non-effect monster battles an effect monster, you can just destroy that card. Yeah, usually people don't read that one or aren't aware of that one, so you might end up getting some advantage off of your opponent not knowing, but mostly the main effect is the first one. You want to usually target Mermer, and that's where your big combos come from. 2 Shaman. Then we have 2 Berserker. He's like our big beater that's considered a non-effect monster. Then Draco Masters of the Tenyi. He's a Link 3. And you usually save him for once you have your grave filled up with Monk of the Tenyis, because he can destroy cards on the field up to the number of non-effect monsters that you have. So yeah, if you have triple Monk in graveyard, then you can destroy 3 cards. And then we have the Link 4. 2 Link 4. Sahasrara, I believe is how it's called. For this one is, while you control a face-up non-effect monster, your opponent can't target effect monsters for attacks, and they also can't target them. And then its quick effect is that you can target 1 effect monster your opponent controls, and then you special summon a token to your side of the field with the same attack as it. So it gives you an easy way of getting a non-effect monster on the field. So yeah, this card's really nice. And 1 Lanfarinkus, Link 2, no effect also. So sometimes you might get in a situation where you're like running out of Monk of the Tenyis. So this is a good option of just like being able to get rid of some of your Tenyi spirits to be able to still control no effect monsters. 1 Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. This one is when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can just banish that monster, which is pretty nice. It doesn't negate it, but it just gets rid of it, which is also nice. He's a level 8 Synchro monster. And then 2 of the Yang Zing Synchro monsters, so Baxia and Yazi. So Baxia doesn't show up that often. It's just an option because we do run a good amount of worms with different attributes. But Yazi, on the other hand, he can be really good, because what I was saying earlier with the Ash Blossom and Ghost Ogre is that they're level 3 tuners. So if you draw level 4 Tenyi Spirit and then normal summon a one of those hand traps, you can go into a level 7 Synchro monster, and then you can use the effect. This is for like going second, by the way. So you do that combo, you summon him, and then you can destroy him and then a card your opponent controls, and then you special summon Mermer, and then you can just go full combo from there. And then lastly is 1 Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. So he's just here in case that if your opponent destroys your counter trap, you have a target that you can special summon from your extra deck. And alright, I'll go over a quick 2-card combo that is fairly simple, and if you understand how this plays out, then you'll pretty much understand how the whole deck plays for the most part. Okay, so just 2 cards, so any Tenyi Spirit, except for a Shuda, I guess for this case. It doesn't really matter, because if you draw a Shuda, then, I mean, you could just use it, so it's good. And 1 Vessel for the Dragon Cycle. So, the way you're going to play this out is you're going to special summon the Tenyi Spirit, since you control no effect monsters. Then we're going to link them away to make a Monk of the Tenyi. Now we're going to activate our Vessel. And then with the Vessel, we're going to send one Mare from our deck to the graveyard. And then since we control a non-effect monster when we resolve this to send Mare to graveyard, we can add a Ashuna from deck to hand. So now this goes to graveyard and we have this to hand. Now we want to special summon Ashuna from hand. And now we're gonna link away both of them to make a Shaman of the Tenyi. So actually this is a 3-card combo because you do need 1 card to be able to discard. So let's just make it a filler card. Let's say, yeah, let's just use this card. So we're gonna use the effect of Shaman to discard 1 card. So just discard a card and we special summon our Mare. Now we're going to use our Mare effect so that we can special summon 3 times. Special summon 3 tokens. Over here. The placement doesn't really matter too much. Yeah, we'll just summon it like that. So we got our 3 Mare tokens and Mare. So now we're going to use Ashuna's effect in graveyard to banish itself, and we're going to special summon the water one. Level 4. Alright, so also Mare is initially a level 7, but if you use its effect, each time you use it, it decreases its level by 1. So we end up with a level 4 Mare. So what we're going to do is we're going to synchro summon using our tuner, level 4, and level 4 Tenyi Spirit Water to go into a Draco Berserker of Tenyi. And then we still have our 3 tokens in Shaman, so we're actually going to use 2 tokens plus the Shaman, and we're going to make our Link 4. So with this end field, you end up having these two 3,000 attack monsters. You keep the token just because it's a non-effect monster, which means you'll get the benefits from the Link 4. Which makes it so your opponent can't target your effect monsters for attacks or card effects. And then you'll also be able to use its effect to special summon a secondary token that'll be stronger too, that you can, yeah, waiting for your opponent to react. And then also when your opponent activates a monster effect, you have like a interruption during your opponent's turn. You can use Draco Berserker to be able to banish something. So yeah, just a simple 2-card combo. Let me know what you guys think. I'm a big fan of this deck. Like I said, it's very consistent. You just pretty much just draw 2 Tenyi monsters and you're like good to go. You have like a good amount of plays, and yeah. I'll see you guys in the next video.